This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk about last week's PlayStation State of Play, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 being confirmed multi-platform, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 124. I am your host, the man who can move your controller with his freaking mind. Yeah, he can do that. Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man for whom PC is his anthem, his ride or die. There is no mod to make him switch sides. Justin, better known as I'm Zaragon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
Oh man, when you sent that video to me and I listened to that, and that was hilarious when saw that.
Yeah.
But my week has been pretty good. So last week we talked about, or I mentioned the fact that I saw an OLED monitor on sale, and so I was on the fence about getting it, and I did end up buying it, and it came a day early, as a matter of fact, and so
Nice.
I set it up, and wow, the difference is night and day, essentially. I mean, the fact that when I was just at the general desktop setting, I noticed how my wallpaper just looked different than before, just because of the different blacks and stuff like that, and I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. And then playing the games, I mean, I really only played one game on the monitor, but it just was it was just great, and so I am quite pleased with my purchase, and I'm just glad that you talked me into it, and so I'm that's definitely now my official main monitor, and so any other monitor will just be my secondary one from here on out. Additionally, earlier this week, and I got a tracking number for this earlier this month, but this came in. This is the, I don't know if that's coming in clearly enough, it might be blurry, but
it's very blurry.
Yeah, it's the essentially it's the Expedition 33 soundtrack, C soundtrack.
Nice.
Came in, and so I almost forgot about it at first, and I was like, what is this in the mail? And I was like, oh wow, that's a pleasant surprise. So I still have to go ahead and rip all the music, but I'll have the complete soundtrack now available, so I'm quite happy with that. I also quickly checked just to make sure, because I thought maybe they might add this in there, maybe they might not. I went to see if they had added in the music from the Versos drafts, but that wasn't included as a last minute thing.
Yeah,
so I was like,
sense.
all right, it's no big deal, but I was just curious to see if that would happen. What else happened? So starting tomorrow, something, or at least for work, I was asked to take over something for someone else, and so I said yes, and so I didn't think I would have to be doing something additional so soon, but it seems like they're trying to accelerate some of the responsibilities and stuff, so that's nice, that's interesting, and it could mean something that might happen closer in the future than later, so that's pretty exciting, I guess. But yeah, that is everything that has happened this week.
Well, I definitely am very excited that you were able to get your OLED monitor. It's just like it completely changes all games, being able to play with that beautiful screen, and it makes it that much better. So
yes,
very cool, very, very cool. Well, on my end, that graphics card did come in, the one I had purchased for my nephew to buy for me when he has the money for it. And of course it looked absolutely pristine when I got it in, but I didn't have time to test it right away because I think it came on maybe probably Friday. And so it was just kind of like, okay, weekend was pretty busy, but I got a chance to test it out yesterday. And initially, I plug it in, plug a cable into one of the DisplayPort cables. I'm getting a signal. It's coming through to the monitor. Everything looks fine. But then I look, and then I just do a quick check on it. VRAM shows 0 VRAM. And so I'm like, I'm looking at the card and it looks pristine. Like, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. I double checked the listing. It's like, no, it doesn't say anything about this being like a, just for parts or whatever, because I was afraid that maybe I had just misread the thing and that it turns out that that's what it was and that I just, wasted the money. But no. And so it's like, well, okay, there's a signal coming through, obviously, because I don't have a cable plugged into the motherboard. It's just plugged into the graphics card. So there's obviously an output there. And did a tiny bit of research and then realized, because of the fact that I've been using an AMD card for a while, there might not be updated drivers for the NVIDIA card. So downloaded the drivers, and then I didn't even have to restart the computer, and it already showed the 12 gigs of VRAM. So it's like, okay, good. I didn't test it with any games, but as far as I'm concerned, as long as I can see that it works and it's recognizing the VRAM it's supposed to have, I'm not really worried about it. So yeah, very glad about that. Otherwise, I turned level 39 this past weekend, so I got some cooking related stuff mostly. I got like a grill mat that my kids got for me that is just kind of like for keeping stuff organized on the side thing on the grill, so that's pretty nifty. And my in-laws got me a grill. Actually, wait, no, that was my wife. My wife got me a grill basket thing that is like, it's like basically it can rotate, so it's good for like if you want to do things that you can't really cook on the grill, like veggies and that sort of thing, because they just fall through the cracks. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but it's pretty cool. And I got these spicy chili crisps from like China or something. It's basically like the chili peppers that you'd find in like Kung Pao chicken, but they're stuffed with sesame seeds and wheat and like fried. So it's kind of spicy, but it's really good snack. And then I got the Catch Me If You Can Blu-ray, and then my wife also gave me a gift card to use towards getting a brining bucket. So I found one that's pretty cool. It's collapsible. So it's like a, I don't know what type of material it is. It's not rubber. It's probably like silicone or something like that, but it like collapses down, and then it has a lid for it, of course, and like I can, pump it up so that I can, or, I can expand it so that I can brine chicken or brisket or, whatever in there. And it has like a cutting board on the inside and, just various things like that. Like it's pretty cool. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but it's still a pretty cool thing. And I'm definitely going to make use of it for when I like brine chicken, for when I do grilled chicken, because that's usually what I do. And the next time I want to make pastrami, I'll definitely use that. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that. I'm trying to think if there's something else. Just got a few random things done around the house. Valentine's Day, I got my wife roses, as I do every year, and the way that we've been doing it since our first Valentine's Day is one rose for every Valentine's Day we've had together. And it's ended up being more than one rose. It's ended up being a little bit more a couple years, because some years it's like I can't get quite the exact amount of roses without spending a ridiculous amount of money, because to get like a specific amount, a lot of the like specialty floral shops or whatever, they'll charge like $60 for a dozen roses, and it's like, no, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I love my wife, but I'm not going to spend that much. It's insane. It's way too much. Actually, I think last year I had looked into getting some, and it was going to be like $100 to get that and then a single rose for my daughter. And I was like, no, that's way too much money. And Sam's Club, I could get 2 dozen for like $30. And so it's like, I'll just get a couple dozen. And so we have a little bit more than technically it's supposed to be, because this was our 19th Valentine's Day together. So, but yeah, and then got my daughter last year, and this year I got her a fake rose because that they just last longer, and getting single roses are a little bit harder to find around here, so it just worked out better that way. So I'll probably just keep doing that every year, get her a new one each year, and then did candy for all the kids, and made a fancy dinner for the family. We actually used our china that we haven't used probably since like the second year of our marriage, because we just never have occasions to use it. Because it used to be like when I was growing up, we'd bring out the china for like Thanksgiving and that sort of thing, but we don't really have enough to do it for our entire family on Thanksgiving, with 20 people. And so we always just do paper plates and everything for that. And so my wife wanted to pull out the china, and so we did. And I made some of the steaks with all that massive amount of beef we have, and made some homemade Alfredo pasta and just some veggies, and it was good. And my wife made her mock chicken patties for my birthday dinner, and she made these they didn't come out quite the way they were supposed to, but they still came out delicious. Remember those cookies I told you about that are stuffed with like the cream cheese filling?
Yes.
So she did that, except that instead of doing peanut butter cookies like we did last time with the cream cheese filling, instead it was basically her chocolate chip cookie recipe, but then instead of just being chocolate chips, it was chocolate chips, pecans, and toffee. And so unfortunately it might be because she used fresh milled flour, and we still haven't quite figured out the right balance for the chocolate chip cookies on how much you need for that, but they didn't quite end up the stuffed way they were supposed to. She had a hard time getting them rolled up properly. But either way, I mean, it's like, so they just ended up like flat and huge and didn't quite look the way they were supposed to, but they're delicious and they're just amazing. So yeah. Can't think of really anything else that's been going on other than games, but we'll get to that.
Good stuff. And happy
All right.
birthday again, or happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. All right. What have you been playing this week?
All right, so it's been pretty light for me. First game that I played was a game called Peak, and this is a game that a friend of mine, he's been playing it for a while with others, and he wanted to play it with me. So we started playing this last week, and essentially the goal of the game is to climb a series of mountains until you reach the peak, as it were. And you go into different areas with different themes. So like the first one's pretty basic, just trying to climb a mountain while there are some poisonous spikes here and there, and get through that. And that wasn't it's a bit of a challenge, but it's nothing that's too extraordinary. The second area, or at least supposedly it's random, but however, when we were playing, it was always the same way every time we started over. And that was, the second area was a poison mushroom area, which one or both of us kept dying in that area just because of how perilous it was. Additionally, in that area, there are random zombies that will appear that can kill you, or giant spiders that can also kill you. And so one or the other have killed us. Oh, also, I forgot, there's also wind that can blow you off and cause you to fall to your death.
Oh.
And because you don't respawn unless someone gets to the peak of that particular mountain and hits a summon stone, you're pretty much out for the rest of the game. So we played that for a while, until eventually I just had to call it wraps for the night. But it was interesting. It's definitely different. It's definitely got an interesting mechanic, but I thought it was pretty interesting from what it was. So yeah, there was that. But then most of what I've been playing has been more of Hades 2, and I'm definitely still making progress in some aspects. I'm, leveling up things, improving my relationships, trying to clear some more chaos trials. I'm definitely completing some more of the, I can't remember what it's called, but the vows that you make when you're doing your runs. But most of the time that's in when I'm trying to go through the underworld. I've tried to make several more attempts at scaling Olympus, and as long as I'm actually using the sister blades, I can make it all the way to the end. However, I cannot for the life of me beat Typhon. Actually, we'll say I did use the scythe with the aspect of Thanatos so I could have the faster swing speed. So that actually did allow me to get to the end. But again, I just really cannot beat that guy. I came close though, because I got to the second phase and I was thinking to myself, all right, I'm doing well. I'm getting close there, and I thought I had one more death defiance, but I didn't. And so then I was like, no, I was so close to the end. But I'm making progress, slowly but surely. I'm trying to see if there's some. I mean, I know that there are certain other incantations that I can get that might help me out as far as like finding random fountains scattered throughout. Like that could probably help me. I just have to make sure I get enough material so I can craft those. But other than that, it's just going to be a matter of trying to just push through. And I'm tempted, but I feel like not yet. I don't want to do this just yet, but I'm almost considering turning on God mode to get through Olympus and stuff like that. But I'm just like, I'll wait a little bit longer. If I can't beat all that with after unlocking some more stuff, then I might do that. But for right now, I'm just like, I feel like it's possible for me to do it. I just need to do some more practice runs before I can get it right. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm still enjoying the game. It's still fun. It's still good Hades goodness. So yeah. But that is everything that I have been playing.
All right. Do you have the Strength Arcana card active? I mean, obviously it doesn't work until you run out of Death Defiance, but
you know what? I don't think I have one. I thought I had it.
You should have it active, because if you need to use Death Defiance, then use Death Defiance. But I'm telling you, having that Strength Arcana card active makes a huge difference, because it reduces your damage by a lot and increases your damage.
Okay, I thought it was just increasing the damage. I didn't realize it was also decreasing. Okay, yeah. Do I actually have to?
I think it's like I think it starts off like 20% damage reduction, and then when you upgrade it does like 40, up to 40.
All right.
And considering the fact that that's when you're not having Death Defiance active anymore. So, I mean, personally, I think it's best to just use that and not even have Death Defiance. But that's also me I have played it with God mode to where, I already had additional damage resistance on top of that. So,
all right, I will definitely make sure that I have that have that activated and try to level that up as well, because I think I only have the first tier. I think I need to get some more materials to actually level that up, but I'll definitely make sure I use that next time.
Yeah. Would also help me a lot. I mean, I know that having the Death Defiance from the cat is obviously helpful, but I used I think it's Hecubuzz, the name of the dog, and that one was helpful for me at least because of the fact that it would sometimes randomly dig up health items, and so that was very helpful. But yep. All right, well, good stuff. I'm glad you're at least making progress, and hopefully next week you'll have your first Typhon victory. I can't remember how many you need before getting the epilogue, but I mean, at least like the initial full ending, it's probably about the same as you did with Hades, like 10 victories or something. But yeah. Cool. All right, well, my list is, I think, no, it's about the same length as last week, but some different games, a couple things that are exactly the same, but a couple things that were inspired by stuff from the PlayStation State of Play, so we'll get to those. First of all, I did play some more Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I actually got some gameplay recorded here, and basically just a little bit here and there. It's more than anything just at the moment grinding towards getting a full armor set for Gormagala. Right now I only have the helmet, the arms, and the chest. So, and actually I may have the falds as well, though. The skirt thing. Like the leg covering stuff, but not the actual legs yet, or maybe I have the legs and I can't remember. Anyway, the point is that I don't have a full set yet, and I don't have a weapon yet, so I'm just kind of grinding away at that little by little before I face the Tigrex and stuff like that. So yeah, that's essentially that. And so, additionally, of course, I played some more Ace Attorney Investigations. I've completed the second and third episodes. So there's 5 episodes, and I was able to actually record some gameplay as well for that. So you can actually see how good it looks on the Switch OLED screen. But yeah, I still have the last 2 episodes. I don't think I've even started either of them yet, because I just finished episode 3 today. But yeah, still enjoying that, having a good time with that. Now, there is a game that I played easily the most this week, over the weekend. And I'll get to that last because of how much there is to say about that. But first, I'm going to talk about something that I started playing today, and that is Kena Bridge of Spirits. So, I have played this a bit on Steam Deck, and I've played it also on PC. So with Kena, I'm getting kind of mixed performance on Steam Deck. I'm getting in between 40 and 60 frames per second if I have most of the settings on low. I've kind of gone back and forth on whether to have dynamic resolution turned on or to just have it at like 50% render scaling. So it's been kind of mixed. I played like 45 minutes on Steam Deck, and I also decided, just because I tend to like the difficulty more, and I wasn't really sure exactly how difficult the highest difficulty would be, I went with the highest difficulty right off the bat, which I believe is Master difficulty. And there is an achievement tied to it as well. So we'll see whether or not I stick with that, or if I have to restart the game, because unfortunately when you're on the highest difficulty, you can't change the difficulty. But it's just like, okay, we'll see what happens. I like what I played so far on Steam Deck. Now, when I got to my desktop, and there isn't footage here from the desktop version, so that's something I will probably add in later. I may even just put together a compilation of both the desktop and Steam Deck footage side by side. Desktop, everything maxed out. Obviously turning off motion blur, 1440p native. I'm getting anywhere between like 134 to 160 frames per second. Pretty average. Of course, it looks incredible. The one thing that I did find out with this is that when I tried to, when I initially booted it up, it was like getting really choppy at times, which was weird. And then I switched it to DirectX 12, restarted it, and then it was running perfectly fine after that. That's when it was actually running properly. So definitely one of the rare examples where DirectX 12 is actually the better choice. So yeah, so it runs really well. I've been stuck on, I think it's the second boss fight. So, well, at least I think it's considered a boss fight. It's not technically a boss. I don't know exactly how that works, but you have the first thing that I would consider a boss fight, where you're just facing off a bigger enemy that has a sword. And then after that, later on, you have a bunch of enemies that show up along with one of those bigger enemies with a sword. And I consider it a boss fight because it's just a more difficult fight, and it's one of the ones where you get the where it has one of the bigger bulbs to destroy whatever. And so I've been stuck on that fight. I've fought it a handful of times, and I've gotten close, but it hasn't quite worked. Do I still have you there? Are you still there?
Oh yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, yeah, Discord's flaking out on me for some reason. Okay, now it seems to be working. Okay, anyway, so yeah, I'm stuck on that fight. I got close a couple times, but it would be like I'd get really close to beating the guy with the sword, and then some of the smaller enemies would sneak up behind me and kill me, because basically, like, the sword guy, one hit from him does like 2/3 of my health, knocks off 2/3 of my health, and because of the fact that every time you take damage, on at least on the higher difficulty, you lose some of your whatever the rot energy is. So then you end up having, and you can only gain more by attacking enemies, and so it ends up being just, it's more challenging. And so I'm trying. I guess it'll depend on how long it takes me to get through the fight. I haven't figured out the parrying timing yet. Still really just trying to figure that out. I haven't been able to get it at all, and I keep not holding down the block button long enough to where it actually, or holding down the block button, instead I kind of like tap it, and that doesn't really work unless you get the timing perfect for the parry, which I've really only got it accidentally a few times. But yeah, trying to think if there's anything else really to say about it. I probably tried like a dozen times on that last fight at least, and the last time I did it before I stopped, I got the sword guy down, but then ended up getting killed by one of the other enemies right after I killed him. It's like, because the other enemies aren't that hard to kill. It's just the fact that so many of them keep popping up that's the problem. So, yeah. I don't think there's really much of anything else to say about that at the moment, since I'm still pretty early in the game. We'll see next week. If I keep failing on this fight, I may just restart the game on a lower difficulty and not worry about trying to get the higher difficulty completion. But, like I said, we'll see where I get. I would assume that the further you go, you get more abilities that in some ways make it a little bit easier. Because like right now, that particular fight specifically, the only time, there's only like one of those healing plants that you can have your rot go and pop for you to heal you. And so once that's used up, if you get hit a couple times on the high difficulty, you're dead. And yeah. But anyway, the game that I ended up playing most of all, also once again inspired by the PlayStation State of Play, was Metal Gear Solid. And I played the entire game. I played beginning to end. I started it on, I think it was probably Friday, because I think the State of Play was on Thursday. So I started playing that on Friday, and I played the majority of it Friday, and then I played some of it Saturday, and then I finished it on Sunday. I will say one of the things that was announced at the State of Play, and we'll talk more about this a bit later, but is that they updated the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection to where particularly Metal Gear Solid 1 actually has all the same improvements that you get playing it on DuckStation, which means HD resolution, widescreen, and 60 frames per second. Whereas before it was like 480p, full screen, and 30 frames per second. So I thought that was a good excuse to finally play it, because I mean, I played it before. Like, I played it on the Vita. I played the PS1 version on Vita in like 2019 or 2020. But I hadn't played it since then. Like, I had started it a couple times, but never really... I don't even think I got past the opening area the few times that I had tried starting it. In the DuckStation, it ran really well. The fact that there was just some issues with figuring out how to get the disc changing portion figured out to where I wouldn't have to, have a separate icon in Steam in order to, get to disc 2. I had never really bothered with it. So I finally just, decided to play it now that it's actually fully updated. And yeah, this game is a masterpiece. It really is an incredible game. There is some initial jank that you have to get past, just kind of figuring out the differences in controls. But once you figure out the controls properly and get used to, the way the way everything works, it's great. Like, the only thing that I have to say I really feel like could be improved about the game, as far as like a general quality of life thing that I kind of wish that they had been able to add in some fashion, is just when the few times that you're in first person aiming, actually being able to use the right stick to aim instead of having to do it with the left stick. Just because then if you could move and aim at the same time, that would be nice. But since you can't, then it is what it is. But yeah, the game really is incredible. And this is the state that the game should have released in back, when the Master Collection originally came out. It should have released with that as an option, and it is just an option. You don't have to do it. If people who want to play it as close to the original as possible, like, more power to you. Go ahead and do that. But I personally find that having played it both ways, this is just a much better experience, because of the fact that you're still getting the same visual presentation in general. Like, it still looks and feels very much the same as it did originally, but it runs better, and having widescreen makes it a better experience. And of course, I don't know, it's just like you still have all the charm of the original art style without it feeling like it's just stretched out, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like a Vaseline smear and that sort of thing, like you get sometimes when you have the updates to games and that sort of thing. And like, then it has, I don't know, it maintains what makes this game's style so great, while at the same time also upgrading it to where it just runs better and ultimately ends up playing better as a result. So yeah, I had a great time playing this one. I'm glad that I had a chance to play it again, and just that really they have improved it. And I will say they improved it across the board. As far as I know, it's improved on all platforms. Even the original Switch, it runs at 60 frames per second and has the widescreen option and HD as well. Because I tested it there first because of the fact that I wanted to know, because like I had seen that they had updated for Switch 2, updated all 3 games for Switch 2, but I was curious about, especially this one, whether or not it was updated. And so Switch 1 got the update for this game, and I mean, it got updates in that the other games run at a consistent 30 frames per second, but the Switch 2 version is the only one that actually has 2 and 3 running at 60 frames per second. So I just played this on Steam Deck though, because mostly just because of the fact that I wanted to play it on Steam more than I wanted to play it on Switch 2. And I will say that probably the next time I play through it, unless I'm trying to get all the remaining achievements on the Steam version, I will probably play it on Switch 2, or even just the original Switch, just because I have that version. But yeah, it really is a great game. The completion time I had was about 14 hours is what it took me to completely finish the game. I didn't have like that's not a great completion time, and I think if I had not messed up quite as much, then I probably would have gotten it done a lot faster. But still, it was a really good experience. I had a great time with it, and I very nearly started Metal Gear Solid 2 right after that, but I decided to hold off, mostly because of the fact that starting Metal Gear Solid 2, I have to kind of refamiliarize myself with some of the differences in controls, because it does have some quality of life improvements over the first game, and I also wanted to be able to pay more attention to the story, because the story is really good in these games, and just at the time, it wasn't really a good time for me to be able to do that. So it's installed at least on my Steam Deck, but I haven't booted it up yet. And of course, having decided that I wanted to start Kena Bridge of Spirits, that was even more so a reason why I didn't do it yet. But who knows? I may still start 2 within the next few days, just because it is a really good game, and I've also only played that one time. I think the only Metal Gear Solid I've played more than once is 3, which I played all the way through 3 times, maybe 4 times? 3 times, I think, because I played all the way through on Vita, then I played through it on 3DS without any mods to improve performance, and then when I found out that there were mods to improve performance, I played through it a 3rd time and played it with the mods that improved the performance and made the game run much better. I mean, it still was only 30 frames per second, but considering the original without the mods, it basically got down to like sometimes 10 frames per second during boss battles. It was like, oof, it was rough. But of course, that was because it was based on the 3DS. The new 3DS, you could actually get it to run at a locked 30, which helped a lot. So, but yeah, I think that's everything. That's everything I play it, at least.
Okay. So question regarding, since we're on the topic about Metal Gear. So you said the other 2 games in the collection had updates. Was it just the 60 FPS update, or were there other updates for those games as well?
I mean, they improved the detail and the resolution. I know, like, PS5 and Series X are 4K now. They might have already been 4K, but they just improved the resolution and the details.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Going back to Kena, so you said something and it sounded very interesting, and I was wondering if that could help, or if you even tried that yet. Did you try, since it worked for the desktop, did you try running the game in DirectX 12 on the Steam Deck, or to see if that would make a difference? Or
I did not. I probably will try that though.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I was like, because I was thinking, I mean,
But
amazingly,
the thing is, on Steam Deck, like, it wasn't choppy on Steam Deck, though. It was just not consistent on the frame rate.
Okay.
Whereas on the PC, it was just, like, really choppy until I switched it over to 12. But I might try that other thing and see if that makes a difference.
Okay. Something which I didn't think about last week, but then I thought about this week with Ace Attorney Investigations. How does the game, or rather, I guess what I'm wondering is how are the controls? Because thinking about it, the game was originally a DS game, so I would assume that the game would be very touchscreen focused in that regard. So I was wondering how did they port the controls over to this game or to the Switch?
Right. Well, I mean, most of the time you're able to manually control the character anyway because you're moving the character around. So it doesn't really have any negative impact. Having not played the DS version, I'm guessing probably there at least was the option, if not flat out like the normal thing of using the touchscreen to move miles around. And assuming that's the case, like if you're using the stylus to move him around, that's been replaced by having the joystick to move him around, because it's not like you're pointing to where he goes, you're just actually moving him. So the controls have been really good. Like the only thing where it is sometimes lacking is like if you have to point to a specific thing, like say this particular like spot on this, it contradicts the evidence, and that's not quite as good as it would be with the touchscreen. I mean, with the touchscreen functionality, but otherwise, you know, it works well. And in reality, it's possible the touchscreen works some for that. I'm not entirely sure, because like when I feel like I tried it for something and it didn't work, but then when I was going through the save menu, it looked like the touchscreen was working. So I don't know. I'll mess with it again next time I'm playing, but either way, for the most part, I haven't really had any issues with the controls. I felt like it controls as well as to be expected.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious thinking about that. I was like, I wonder if the game was more like a point and click, or if it had any other type of controls that would be touchscreen focused, if that would change the way, you know, the game played. Because I mean, while it wasn't to the same degree, or rather they didn't implement it that much, the DS Castlevania games, you know, they had touchscreens, and that kind of influenced how the modern ports functions. I mean, it wasn't great, but they did have to like change some stuff around for that. So I was just curious about to see how that happened, or how that was handled. Okay.
Yeah, of course it helps that this is not as twitchy of a kind of game as Castlevania.
Indeed. Alright, I think that is everything from me.
Alright, sounds good. Well, last week we had that PlayStation State of Play, and of course, as expected, we got the majority of our predictions wrong. Much like with the Nintendo Direct, we got 3 things correct. I don't remember which ones were which exactly, but I'll mention those real quick, and then we'll get into all the things that stood out. There was, of course, the God of War remake, which turns out was the trilogy, which we had predicted. The God of War Metroidvania, which was Sons of Sparta, which was also revealed, although it was not it did not release on PC. And I thought there was one other thing. Oh yeah, and then the Metal Gear Solid Collection 2, or the Master Collection Volume 2, that we also got correct. So, but let's go ahead and just go into the things that stood out to us. So why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I guess since we were sort of on that topic, I'll start off with God of War Trilogy Remake. And yeah, I definitely remember you mentioning this last week, saying that, yeah, we'll get God of War Remake announced, and not only did they announce 1, but they announced 2 and 3. Now, we didn't get any concrete details about the games, or, we don't have any type of window or anything like that, or even any footage, so it's most likely safe to bet that the game or games won't come out for a while. And since they're remakes, I would take it that they're going to just remake them one at a time and not have a full trilogy collection remake.
Well, it does say trilogy remake, so I think that they're doing all 3 of them together.
Okay, then. I was thinking it would be one at a time since they would have to start from the ground up. But if they are doing them all at once, then maybe we could see something sooner. I don't know, but it's I'm definitely interested and intrigued. I definitely hope that they keep the gameplay in the same style as the original games, being a hack and slash, top down, or not necessarily top down, but just have the camera pulled out and not be behind the shoulder, because I think that both the original style games and the Norse games have completely different gameplay styles that suit them specifically because of how they were crafted, and trying to force the modern controls onto the older games just
right.
It's just incompatible, especially with some of the bosses, like especially if you're going to deal with some, like, say, with Kronos in God of War 3, or if you're going to take on some other titans or something like that. It's just a huge difference. It's just different. I mean, even like a couple sections, and I know it happens in 3. I can't recall exactly if it happens in the first 2 games because I didn't really get too much into them. But there is at least one section where you are in a 2D aspect. So it's and part of it is because they're trying to, like, well, I can't really spoil anything, but there's a reason why they pull back the camera and it's like a 2D aspect. You're just moving left and right, and it had an impact on what was happening at the time. And so you can't really do something like that if you're, playing behind the shoulder in Norse God of War style. So right. I really hope that they do maintain the gameplay that the original games had, because those were unique and special to them, and definitely inspired other games that would follow forth. Now, the one that I was wondering is, will this, it might not happen day and date, but I would be wondering if this would come to PC at least a year later after releasing on the PS5.
Yeah.
I mean, let me know if you think I'm wrong on there, but I would think that it would be coming over, but we would definitely have to wait and see. But yeah, that is everything I have to say on that game or games.
Well, what I do have to say on this is I think that there is a real possibility this could be day and date on PC. The main reason I said that is because although they announced that the Greek trilogy is in development, and the fact that they said trilogy, the God of War trilogy remake, they made sure when T.C. Carson came on, who's the original voice of Kratos, he said that the trilogy remake is in development. He didn't say 3 separate games, anything like that. So it looks like it's going to be all 3 games together in one package. But the main thing that makes me think that it could very well be day one on PC is the fact that when they said that the remake is in development, he didn't say for PS5. Now, of course, it's probably coming to PS5, because unless they actually manage to get things worked out to where they can have PS6 out within, by the time this is ready to go. But I think that it's very possible that the reason they didn't mention PS5 is because they're planning to do a PS5 and PC. And usually when they have something that's in development specifically for the PS5, they'll say PS5. And they won't say anything about PC. So, the fact that they mentioned nothing to me seems to indicate either A, this is going to be PS5 and PC at the same time, or B, they're unsure about whether this is going to be PS5 or PS6. And they did say it's in very early stages right now, and then the next time they show it off, it will be something significant to show off. So, my guess is that probably we would see something 2028 would probably be around the time, and it could potentially be PS6, but I think that there's a real possibility this could also be PC on the same day. So we'll have to wait and see. Either way, going back to as far as like my thoughts on this trilogy coming out, I think as long as they stay true to what the game was and don't try to make it, as you said, like the Norse saga, I think that it could do really well. I'm still definitely of the opinion that I would like it if they at least had the option to turn off all of the nudity and the very adult mini games that are in there, which I think from what I heard, the first two games, they're optional. The third game, it's basically forced. You have to do it in order to proceed. And it gets very graphic from what people were saying. Maybe not as graphic as some things, but still, what you have to do is pretty crazy. So I'm hoping that they'll at least have the option to remove those things. But yeah. I will say, though, it's unlikely that if I was interested in like actually giving these games a real go, that I would wait for the remakes. More likely than not, I would just play the games I have already, because I have the first two games on Vita, which is not obviously the best versions. Then I have the full collection for PS3 that has all of the games. So that's one where I'm just not quite sure. But either way, I'm glad that they announced it, at least. I mean, whether it ends up being something that I want to play in the end or not, I'm so glad that they announced it. All right. As far as the additional announcements, I guess since we're already on the topic of God of War, might as well talk about God of War Sons of Sparta. So this one was another one that, this is the Metroidvania one, which I had thought would be day and date on PC, would be released at the same time. Turns out I was wrong on that. And I have a kind of mixed feelings about it. Initially, I was like, if this had released at that time, there's a more than reasonable chance it would have been an impulse buy for me. But the fact that it wasn't, I'm actually not entirely disappointed. It looks pretty decent as far as like visually and everything. Maybe not like the most visually impressive, and I would have liked it better if it was something that was actually like more basically a 2D Metroidvania with the proper version of Kratos rather than Kratos before he was a god. But I also understand from a story perspective that would be difficult to pull off because of all the stuff they've already done. But I mean, this is basically supposed to be just, him and I think Demos is the name of his friend who was, when they were just soldiers of Sparta before, he got his powers and everything, and the Chaos Blades and all of that stuff. The one thing that is a little weird about this one, from my understanding, is that apparently the story of, how he got to this point and everything was already told in the PSP game Ghost of Sparta. So it's kind of retelling the story maybe unnecessarily, and without knowing for sure, it almost wouldn't surprise me if they decided to inject their own personal politics into it and everything. One thing I did see from gameplay from some people who streamed the game is that it has that really obnoxious hint system that the recent God of War games have. If it takes you a while to solve a puzzle, it's like, no, you can't do that. I mean, I'm hoping that maybe if this one, when this one comes to PC, that they will make that hint system optional and like actually be able to turn it off, because it was kind of, at least when I played Ragnarok, there were times where the hint system was obnoxious, because it's like I said I don't want the hints, and it was still giving me hints from one of the other characters. Like, it's like, oh, Atreus isn't going to give me the hints, but Freya's going to give me the hints. And it's like, I don't want the hints. Stop hinting at me. I'm looking around. I'm trying to explore. Stop telling me what to do. But yeah, so I haven't heard a whole lot about this apart from some people saying that this just wasn't necessary and that they didn't like it. I'm kind of mixed on it, but when it comes to PC, at least, there's a more than a reasonable chance I'll be waiting, because the fact that they waited to put it on PC just took away the impulse I had to buy it. And it's not like I don't have 100 other Metroidvanias to play. Probably an actual 100 Metroidvanias to play. And the fact that you don't have the powers, I mean, Kratos doesn't have all his powers, makes it less appealing to me anyway than it would be otherwise. So, I mean, it's still a Metroidvania, you still get different abilities and all that, but it's not quite the same as what I was hoping for. So, those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, like you said, I'm also disappointed that this wasn't announced to be coming to PC day and date. And also, like you said, the fact that you're playing as a pre-Ghost of Sparta Kratos is a bit off to me. I mean, I'm glad that you actually are playing Kratos, because when I initially saw this, I thought, who's that? If I'm playing God of War, I'm playing as Kratos. Who's this guy? And I'm like, oh wait, that is Kratos. But the one thing that, I guess because of the fact that you're playing at that point, with some of the enemies that you see, and especially how they mentioned that you will be facing mythological creatures, I'm partially thinking, now granted, you mentioned that this game sort of seems to be like a retelling of the PSP game Ghost of Sparta, which I know nothing about, but I'm wondering, from a narrative perspective, would that make sense? Because I don't know how things happened in a full chronological sense, but I'm wondering, did all of the mythological sense stuff happen, or did some of it happen before the events of the first game? Because if it didn't happen, it would be weird for Kratos to be facing, you know, some of these creatures like centaurs and minotaurs, like at that point, you know, before the first game, because I mean, like, based on what it seems like, or at least from some stuff, especially with, I mean, granted, you know, it's definitely possible because, you know, in the first game, Kratos was saying, Ares, grant me the power to vanquish my enemies. So, like, obviously, there's something that could have been happening, but it just didn't seem to me like it was going to be that in depth, or at least it didn't seem like there would be that those elements wouldn't be out in the open like that until like after those events transpired. So maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. It just seems.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this story is basically like this is all when he was more or less a kid, like maybe in his early teens or something, because it was well before all the events of the original game. And I don't know how much of this story is a retelling of Ghost of Sparta versus how much of it is like set well before that.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely have to wait and see, like you said, for the PC version, see if I'll get it or not. Now, one thing I thought about the if the game has obnoxious hint systems built in, maybe waiting around seeing if someone makes some sort of mod to
Right.
to do something about that, because I mean, I feel like there would be a non-0% chance that someone would say, okay, you know what, since Sony didn't give us a proper option to remove or silence the options, I'll do it myself. So there could be something that happens later on in that regard. But yeah, this definitely seems interesting enough, but I'd have to wait and see more information. And of course, also wait for a PC version to come out too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Sony just has to start realizing that even though the games sell on PC, things like this that are smaller games would be much more likely to be impulse buys if they release the same day rather than waiting to release them. But, it is what it is. It might, I would imagine probably at least some of this is that they know that certain Sony fans will be really upset if this game came to PC the same day, because it would basically be them bending the knee more or less. At least that's how it would be viewed. Either that or it would be the goalpost would get moved. And personally, I don't think this one is it really a tentpole title in the same sense. But I think that Sony's going to slowly build up that preparation before God of War Remake Trilogy comes out, because if that ends up being day and date on PC, yeah, it's a remake, but at the same time, it is a tentpole title, or tentpole set of titles that would be significant. So, yeah. All right, what's your next game?
All right, so my next game is going to be Brigandine Abyss, and this game stuck out to me for several, or rather, I guess technically several reasons. So it is a tactical turn-based RPG, which in of itself, I'm not the biggest person of. I'm not really the biggest player of that genre, but I do enjoy, I did enjoy playing the Fire Emblem games, or the games that I did play. And this game has several different people from different Fire Emblem games working on it. And because of that, I thought, well, this could be a good chance to get a as close as possible Fire Emblem game on PC. So just because of that, I said, hey, I will go ahead, and it's also coming to PC as well. I think Xbox as well as PlayStation, and I think even Switch as well, but I could be wrong there. But it's coming to PC, so I will definitely have that on my have that on my watch list, and keep an eye out for that, because like I said, I enjoyed Fire Emblem. So if we're getting a Fire Emblem-esque game on PC, then I'm all for that. So I'll definitely keep an eye on that as we get closer to release. But yeah, that's really everything I had to say about that one.
Yeah, that one looked pretty interesting. I'm not sure exactly how much I'm super interested in it, mostly just because if I really want that type of RPG, I have multiple Fire Emblem games plus Final Fantasy Tactics available to me. But I do think it looks pretty cool. So there's at least that. And, the fact that it's multi-platform is also great. All right. My next thing that we absolutely have to talk about is Death Stranding 2 being revealed for PC. Um, I I thought about predicting this last week. The only real reason I didn't predict it was because I was thinking, oh, this is probably going to be Kojima Productions, specifically that it's going to be something related to Kojima Productions. Potentially, I can't remember which studio was that ported the first game over, but um, I wasn't expecting this to show up here, and yet it was the second announcement in the state of play, and of course, the second I saw it, I just had a huge grin on my face. I was very, very happy to see this, because we knew this was coming to PC regardless. Like there was no doubt about that. The question was simply a matter of when is it coming to PC, and we got the release date is March 19th. So, I'm very excited about it. Now I probably need to get back on my butt, or get off my butt and get back to Death Stranding 1 to finish getting the rest of the achievements. But either way, I'm really happy about this, and I'm especially happy that it is Nixxes doing the port. So this is 100% a PlayStation. PlayStation is who's in charge of this port. It's not Kojima Productions on their own. Now, yes, Kojima has probably made some kind of agreement with Sony, and that's the reason why why it's releasing about 9 months after the original release on PS5. But yeah, it's looking really great, and I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah. I also was surprised to see this, and I mean, I'm also just surprised that the game is coming so soon. I was not expecting the game to be coming out next month, basically. So this is definitely a pleasant surprise. And like you said, the game is being published, or at least co-published, by PlayStation Studios, which...
Well, I mean, it's not just PlayStation Studios, it's their studio. Nixxes is doing the port.
Oh, yep. So they are the ones handling this, unlike, the first time around, and it was actually, I think the publisher was 505
That's
Games.
Right. That's
who
what it
published
was.
it on
I knew it was
PC.
something with a 5, and I was like, it's not level 5. Yes, 505. That's right.
So, yeah, like, Sony is definitely involved in this, so the fact that they're bringing it over so quickly is incredible. But, additionally, they are still giving the same care as far as, like, details and PC aspects that you would expect, like having ultra widescreen support, having, all these methods for upscaling, and even though I don't like it, frame generation, maintaining the DualSense controllers, features as well. So all that stuff you get on the PC version, making it essentially the definitive version of the game. So that's definitely incredible. And that also just reminds me that I still have to go back and get back into the first game. But so definitely this game would, if I get this, it'll be a long while,
right.
Since I still have to play the first game anyway. But it's definitely great that the game is just coming over here. Now, that still makes me wonder, though, when could we hear something about this for the other game, for the other platforms, like Xbox and Switch 2?
Yeah.
Obviously, no time soon, but maybe in a year and a half, maybe we could hear something. I don't know. We definitely have to wait and see. But I'm just, it's just amazing that we're getting this game, like you said, 9 months after the first game, or after the game released first on PS5, when you think about how long it took for the first game to come over to PC, was much longer. So that window is definitely shrinking. And so, essentially at this point, Death Stranding 3 is day and date as the PS5 version for PC. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm I'm so excited about this. The one thing that I know is probably not going to happen is it probably won't be Steam Deck verified. Um, just because I think they would have to do like some serious magic to make that happen. Because this definitely looks better than the first game, and I mean the first game already looked incredible, but this one looks better without question. And yeah, just either way, I'm excited. So, all right, what's your next game?
Next game is going to be Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2. And it's great that this was approved, but I am disappointed that there are only 2 games that are a part of this collection. That being Metal Gear Solid 4 and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Now, it's definitely great, don't get me wrong, that Metal Gear Solid 4 is finally off the PS3 after who knows how long. Because that's something that people have wanted, was to get get a port of this game, and that's wonderful. On the other hand, though, when you look at the first collection, you had Metal Gear Solid, you had Metal Gear Solid 2, you had Metal Gear Solid 3, and I think you had the different variants of 2 and 3 as well. You had the original Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2, and Metal Gear Snake's Revenge. I can't remember.
Yeah. They had the NES ones in addition to the actual Metal Gear 1 and 2.
Okay. So yeah, so you have all those games in that collection, and for this one you only have 2 games, which is just,
well, you technically have 3.
Disappointing.
It's just the third one's the Game Boy one.
Oh, they include that one in
yeah,
this collection? Okay. So you have 3 games, but it just felt lackluster. I mean, I could understand why they didn't add in 5, because 5 technically is available on modern platforms already, and it would be a bit weird, but I feel like they should have added in Metal Gear Acid and Portable Ops. Like, I feel like you could have added those in just to help round things out some more. Just, I don't know. It at face value, this just feels more lackluster than the first collection. I mean, like I said, it's great that 4 finally has a modern port for every system, but they could have just added some stuff to beef things up. But yeah, it's definitely great though, and it does make me tempted to go ahead and possibly get the first collection to start playing some stuff for ahead of time for this one, but I'll have to wait and see.
Well, okay, so I actually have a bit of a different opinion from you on that. For one, from what I've heard, Portable Ops is really rough and requires a lot more work. So I understand why they wouldn't include it. And Acid, from what I understand, is not canon. Plus, it's also a very different style of game because it's basically like a card battle kind of thing. It's like turn-based card battles. I can't remember exactly how it works. I have yet to play it, either of the Acid games. So I understand why they didn't include those. I think Portable Ops might actually be considered canon, but either way, I think that one needed a lot more work, and that's probably the major reason why. Whereas Peace Walker, they had already ported it to PS3 and 360, so it was just porting it over from there. And the other thing is that these are much bigger games than the previous games were, because like 1, 2, and 3 were all like 15 to 20 hour games. And then the other ones, I'm not sure about the length on them, but at least from those, it's like, okay, I kind of see why they did it that way. They just kind of ran out of having more games. Metal Gear Solid 4 especially is just a big game. And really, they probably had to do a lot more work with that. Plus, it's a longer game for sure. I don't remember exactly how long it took me to finish that one. It may not be as long as I'm thinking. It might just have felt longer because it had so many cutscenes. So many more than the previous ones did. And like the ending itself was like an hour long. I remember because I played it on PS3, and I remember that I ended up staying up like, I think I finished the game around 11 o'clock, and then it wasn't until 1 o'clock that I was actually able, or no, I finished the game at 11, and then it was like, by the time I got through all of the ending stuff, it was around midnight or so. So it was like just a long time to get through all of that. And Peace Walker is a beefy game, has a lot to it. It's pretty long because it has the mission structure. It's the first game that did that. And so it just ended up being, plus there's also like a lot more replayability you can do with that. But I understand like why they didn't include Metal Gear Solid V, mostly just because of the fact that it's, because you can still play those on modern platforms. I mean, PC, you can get the collection that includes both parts of that. Same on both the PS4 and Xbox. And I'm pretty sure those consoles have 60 FPS on those versions. They're only 1080p, but you at least still get 60 FPS versions. So yeah, but now these games are coming to all platforms, and including the Switch and Switch 2. Of course, not surprisingly, it's a game key card on the Switch 2, and just like it was for the first collection on Switch 1, it's basically a game key card. But the collection does also include Ghost Babel, which is a Game Boy Color game that you cannot buy without spending a ridiculous amount of money because it's so rare. So the fact that they're including this is great. And from what I've heard, it's actually a really good game too. So it's one of those that, like, I had it installed on my Steam Deck for a while. I don't think I still have it on there, but I never got around to like really playing it, and the controls were a little wonky because of the fact that it was, emulating the Game Boy one that just had wonky controls because of how few buttons you had to work with. So I have a feeling that it'll probably control better. But definitely the thing I'm most excited about with this is Metal Gear Solid 4, just because it's the only one that I couldn't play on a portable device. And, now I can play it again with the better frame rates and everything. Hopefully it should be, well, there's no reason why it shouldn't play well on the Steam Deck. Because, I mean, they're putting it on Switch and Switch 2 as well. So I think it should be able to get 60 FPS without any real issues. Especially since it was originally a PS3 game. But yeah, I'm very excited about this. I'm looking out for a deal on it before I buy it. But I imagine probably there won't be any sort of deal until closer to launch. I'm very enthusiastic about this and playing these games and actually having native PC versions for them. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. All right, well, along that same line, mentioned briefly earlier, but I just want to mention again the fact that they announced finally doing updates for the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1 to where they finally gave a proper widescreen, HD, and 60 FPS mode for the original Metal Gear Solid, which of course made it much more enjoyable to play, even though it was a great game regardless. The higher resolution graphics, like, I haven't had a chance to experience them firsthand to where I could say how it works for 2 and 3, but I mean, that part I didn't care about, honestly, all that much. It was more just the updates for 1 that I cared about, so I'm really glad that they finally did this.
Yeah, definitely great that they did it. And like you said earlier, it's something that should have been there when they first released the collection, but at least they're bringing it now, and at least they're not, charging you for that. So, great that's coming. I guess because Konami said this is the final update for the collection, I guess that means we shouldn't expect, or at least, are the games capped at 60 on PC?
I
Or is there
think
like,
so. I'm pretty sure they are. I mean,
okay,
there's probably a mod to change that, but I only, I didn't try that the one time that I was trying to play 3, or the little bit that I played of 3 on PC.
okay, okay, I was saying in that case, then that'll change things. So I would say then, unless they decide later on to say, hey, we're going to have an update for the consoles to run at higher frame rates, but since the game's already capped at 60 on PC, that's not really going to happen for the consoles either then. But yeah, though, it's definitely great that we had that we definitely got the performance and visual improvements that we did.
Yep, for sure. All right, what's your next game?
Next game is going to be Legacy of Kain Defiance Remastered. Now, Legacy of Kain 1 and 2 were, of course, remastered last year, and from what I've seen and heard, it's definitely been pretty good. And Defiance, that one has been available to purchase. That one hasn't been, or at least as far as I can remember, wasn't delisted like the first two games were, and
right.
So you could easily find them. But now this game is also being remastered as well. I still haven't gone ahead and played 1 and 2 yet, and that's something I've been meaning to eventually get back to in my backlog. But I'm definitely glad that this game is also being remastered, so that would give me a reason to go ahead and play that rather than start the original game, or the original version of the game.
Yeah, this one also had me pretty happy. I mean, I still, like you, I still need to play the first two because I only played a tiny bit of the first game. But I have them both on Switch in the collection, so I definitely will do that at some point. One thing that really came out of this state of play is it just like, man, there's so many games that I need to get back to, or games that I need to, play that I've had in my collection that I just haven't gotten to yet, like the first two Legacy of Kain games, and replaying the Metal Gear Solid games, especially playing the first one, and getting into Canon British Spirits, since I hadn't played that one, and the second one's coming out. And you're, finishing up Death Stranding 1, or, at least getting all the remaining achievements. And yeah, it's just like, this was another one where it very much made me want to get back to the collection. And I definitely will at some point. I'm kind of curious because I've only messed around with the collection on Switch 2. And I didn't really notice any problems with how the game looked and played. But I'd be kind of curious if that is one that will... I imagine it'll probably look and play better on the Switch 1. Unless it actually has, like, uncapped stuff and is properly... at least from a visual standpoint, is designed to actually work well on the Switch 2. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I'm excited about this collection. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for the physical version, though, and just plan on getting that. And that'll give me more time to finish the first two games beforehand. But I'll definitely get the physical version, probably just for the Switch 1, unless they do something significant with the Switch 2 version. All right, let's see here. The next one for me, since this one wasn't on your list, we'd already seen it before, but Control Resonant. The major reason why I wanted to bring this one up is because, we didn't, of course, get Gravity Rush Remastered, but it looks like this has taken some inspiration from Gravity Rush in using the gravity mechanics to get on, to go up on walls and all of that. And of course, on top of that, it's like, I already liked the first Control a lot. And the combat in this, is much more melee focused than the first Control. And so it's like, you took a game that I was already very interested in. You gave it gravity rush mechanics, making it even more interesting to me. And it's like, you guys have sold me on this game tenfold. Now, is it going to be day one? Probably not, because I still need to finish the DLC for the first game. But definitely, at some point, I want to play this one, because it looks fantastic. And of course, knowing the fact that, once again, it has those gravity rush mechanics, makes me excited, because so far, who knows when Sony's ever actually going to do the Gravity Rush remasters that they should have done already, because they would sell. But whatever.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. You see, they would sell. That makes too much sense. And why would Sony want to make sense? That doesn't sound right. But yeah, I didn't even think about it until you said it, that Control Resonant has some like aspects of Gravity Rush there, and so I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting actually. I'm still, it definitely looks great, but I mean, granted, I haven't even played the first Control yet, so I can't really, say too much on that aspect. But I still, I guess, would have to adjust to the style or the change in combat from being a more, technically third-person shooter-ish type of game,
right,
to a more close quarters melee combat focused game.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to adjust to that, but I still have to play the first game anyway,
Yeah.
so there's that as well. But I'm not gonna deny that this game doesn't look good. Like, I definitely agree that it looks good. I just have to adjust in that aspect, but it still looks great. And we didn't, or correct me if I'm wrong, did we get any type of release window for this yet, or was it just the gameplay?
I can't remember if they gave an actual, I mean, I just know it's 2026, but I can't remember if this was one that actually had a release date attached to it. The trailer's just about over, so I'll be able to tell you here momentarily, but I don't think they had an actual release date yet, just 2026.
Okay.
Yeah, just coming 2026 is all it says. But of course, the other good thing about this is the fact that it is, in fact, going to be on Steam and not Epic Games exclusive.
Always a wonderful thing to see.
But yeah, I just have to say once again, reiterate, I love the fact that they made it to where it feels distinct enough from the first game, while at the same time having that same excellence that the first game had. But then, you have the fact that you're switching with the combat styles, especially because the fact that you're playing as the brother this time around. And, I won't say anything about the brother's role in the first game. Honestly, some of it I don't remember everything with the story, because the story was crazy. But, just having him be so much different from Jesse is really exciting to me, and just having such a different emphasis, and then of course having the gravity rush mechanics. It's just like, yes, I love that. Especially because I remember Gravity Rush, the first time I saw that on Vita, I was super interested. It looked so interesting to me, but then I tried playing it, and the gravity mechanics, particularly with the spinning and everything that you'd be doing, rotating in the air, it gave me a headache, and so it's like I had to just put it down. And I hadn't bought it at the time. I just played it because it was quote unquote free through PlayStation Plus. But then I ended up buying it when they were getting ready to close down the Vita store, before they changed their minds on that, even though I don't think they really changed their minds. I think they just used it as a way to get people to buy a bunch of to panic buy a bunch of games, and it worked for me. But anyway, and then once like it clicked in my brain and I was able to get past that, it's like, I love this game is fantastic. I ended up getting the platinum in it, and played a little bit of 2, but I had mostly started it like right before we moved from Alaska, and so I didn't get super far in it, and then I just never got back to it. And at this point, I'm just like, I'll just wait for the inevitable remaster, and then I can get the better frame rate and everything instead of being stuck at 30 FPS, and then I don't have to plug in my PS4 either. So, but yeah. All right, let's move on. Okay, what was the next game that stood out to you?
Next game that stood out to me was Project Windless. And initially, I wasn't certain what type of game this was. And I really don't even know properly how to describe it, because it's not exactly a Souls. Yeah, it's like a hack and slash type of game. But you are, like you said, a giant chicken, essentially. And I have no, apparently this is based off a Korean novel. I have never heard of this before, so I have no idea what the story's like, but it definitely looks intriguing. Currently, as of now, though, it's pretty much only on the PS5, so it's not like it's going to be coming to PC anytime soon, but I feel like this is another game where at some point there will be a PC port. It's just a matter of when, though, rather than if, but it does look interesting, if not unique, like just because you're a chicken, but I'm sold based on the combat, so I think it looks interesting.
Yeah, it's like Foghorn, Leghorn with an S. It's like, I say, I'm gonna slash you up. Foghorn, Leghorn of War.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it looks pretty fantastic. But I mean, yeah, it's basically like a mix of Warriors, God of War, and Looney Tunes. Yeah, it looks pretty fantastic. I was hoping that it would be listed on Steam, but yeah, you're right. It's still not. It's not listed on there. I mean, we don't even know when it's coming. I don't even think it has a release window on it. I think it just, they have some early gameplay to show off. My guess is that it's probably very much like what they did with what you call it, Black Myth Wukong, where initially it was, basically PlayStation's locking this down as an exclusive initially. And there's the possibility, I still think it's very possible it could still be revealed as coming to PC at the same time. Because I'm pretty sure that Black Myth Wukong came to PC the same time that it came to PlayStation. But it's also possible that the PlayStation just, paid to get it locked down completely to their platform exclusively. And at least, until the 1 year window is up or whatever it happens to be. I mean, it was 1 year from the time that it came to PlayStation to the time that it came to Xbox for Black Myth Wukong. But yeah, either way, I think it looks pretty cool. I still haven't even played Black Myth Wukong. I don't own it, and I may grab it eventually. I'm thinking I'll probably grab it eventually, but I'm also looking at all the games I have to play as it is, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think this one looks cool. Actually, I think this one, in some ways, is a little more appealing to me than Black Myth Wukong, but I'm honestly just not really sure. The fact that right now it just says it's in development for PS5, we'll kind of see what happens from there.
Yeah, one thing I just thought about is I wonder if this could be a Stellar Blade type of situation, since this is also a South Korean game. So I wonder if that same time frame could be applying here as well. I'm sure it's two different studios and stuff, but I just wonder if we could have a similar situation or not. Because in that case, then, give a year after it releases, whenever that is, we could get a PC version.
Yeah.
If not, sooner, since the release windows seem to be shortening for different games.
Right. Yeah. We'll just keep our eyes peeled, see what comes up, and once again, even if this doesn't come day and date to PC, I mean, it's not like we have a shortage of games to play. We have way too many games to play, and I don't even have anywhere near as many games as you do. So I'm trying more and more to view my collection of games as a collection of games I can play rather than a collection of games that I bought that I have to play. Because that makes me not feel quite as bad about it. And I try to also remind myself that enough of these games I spent so little on that even if I never play them, I didn't lose much of any money. I mean, it's like, it is what it is. And anyway. All right. Moving on. So I think we just have 2 games left on the list. And one of those I think we can save for last because that one's more significant. But I guess we might as well bring up the sequel to Kena Bridge of Spirits, Kena Scars of Cosmora. So all I really have to say about this is that I already thought the first game looked great and I hadn't had a chance to play it yet, though I just started it. This one looks like it's also going to be great. I think it looks really solid, and I'm very glad that it's confirmed PS5 and PC same day, even though it's still not listed on Steam. But yeah, that's the extent of my thoughts on that. And since you played the first game, I'm sure you have more.
No, I actually have not played it.
Oh, you haven't?
I own the game, but I have not touched it yet.
Oh. I just assumed you had.
No. Yes, I mean, I also looked at this trailer and thought, that looks good. And I was actually going to ask you a question about the game because based on what I see or what I saw in the trailer, this looks like it's more open world than the first game. At least to my understanding, the first game was an open world.
Yeah.
Or at least it might be.
At least.
Yeah, so but looking at some of the footage from the trailer, I just thought,
yeah,
oh, is this a bit more expansive? Is this more open world? So I was gonna ask you about that, just because from that point. But like you said, it definitely looks great, and it made me also think I should go back and play the first game.
Yeah.
Ahead of time for this, but it definitely looks good, and the fact that it is coming to PC is also still great. So I'll definitely add that to my wish list once it pops up on the Steam store.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know why I thought you had played this one. I thought we had talked about it before, but obviously I was remembering incorrectly. So either way, it looks pretty cool. And like you said, it looks to be open world this time around. And I'm from what I've played, the very little that I played so far, I feel like the levels in the first game are more Zelda-like in terms of being more closed, but still what I've played I've really enjoyed, apart from, dying constantly. That hasn't been so pleasant, but that's more because I decided to start at the highest difficulty on my first playthrough, and we'll see if I stick with that. But anyway, trying to think if there's anything else to say on that one. I guess not, but I know that this last game that we both have on our list, let you do the honors to bring it up.
Oh, wait, I think...
Oh, you know what?
Wait,
it's not on your list. It wasn't on your list. Castlevania.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We have a new Castlevania coming, and I'm of mixed opinion on this. It definitely looks good. It's definitely new. It's definitely a 2D Castlevania. But my biggest gripe with this is the fact that, while yes, times have changed, I really would have liked it to have been sprite based. That is actually the one thing that I would have wanted from it. Sure, we have a lot of Metroidvanias these days, and they're using in their 2.5D, or they're using 3D assets and stuff. It's still 2D games, but I don't know. Even though also Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate was 2.5D, that was technically that's part of a different continuity from the mainline games, and all of them have been sprite based. So
yeah,
I kind of would have liked this one to have been sprite based as well, but it looks good. And also, while it hasn't been confirmed yet, much speculation, which I think I can agree on, is that this is Sonia Belmont, who, from my understanding, has only had an appearance in Judgment, which was a fighting game on the Wii. So this would be her first canon appearance in the mainline games. But yeah, it definitely looks promising. But I think we'll definitely have to get more information on that. But it's definitely surprising that Konami would go back to this series, because I mean, sure, they've had ports, collections, remasters, and stuff like that as of late, but the last 2D, and of course, and I mean actually made by Konami, not like the Lords of Shadows games that were made by or at least I know the 3DS one was made by
Mercury Steam.
Was it Mercury Steam.
Yeah.
But the last 2D game that Konami themselves made was Dawn of Sorrow, unless the one game that was multiplayer, which never got any type of port or re-release after the PS3 and Xbox 360, unless that one came later. Dawn of Sorrow was like the last 2D Castlevania game they made, so it's been a long time. So it'll be interesting, and also it'll be interesting to see what happens with this game, since Koji Igarashi left Konami and made his own games, and of course made Bloodstained. So this will be like the first game without him, essentially, there. So I'm also interested to see what happens in that aspect. Could be good, but we'll definitely have to wait and see. I'm going to be more in a waiting category. This wouldn't be an impulse buy for me, just because I want to see what happens with this. And like I said, if it were sprite based, I would be really chomping at the bit to get this, but I'm just more cautiously optimistic. I guess I'll put it like that. So I'll definitely have to wait and see more on this, but it definitely looks appealing to me.
All right. Well, I guess that's fair criticisms. I can understand, wanting it to be sprite based. I mean, I understand the main reasons why it wouldn't be. Obviously the last sprite based games were released on the DS. So from that standpoint, I can understand why they went with 2.5D. I could definitely, I think, sprite based would be pretty cool, but I understand why they didn't, at least. What I will say, though, is, well, for starters, I think you are right about it probably being Sonia Belmont. I think you said it was Sonia, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably who it is, because as far as I can tell, that is definitely a woman, rather than a guy. Initially, I thought that it was supposed to be, I thought that it said Trevor Belmont, but that may have been the character who was speaking rather than the actual person, and based on like the outfit and everything, I would say this is probably a girl. So, but what gives me real hope about the quality of this is the fact that Motion Twin is involved with the development of it. And I mean, it looks like they're just like they're just advising on it, but based on what they did with Dead Cells and the quality of that gives me a lot of hope, because Dead Cells is a very, very high quality game, and it is partially Metroidvania at least. Now, granted, of course, in that case, it was also a roguelite, so it definitely had, I mean, you know, had the randomly generated maps and all that, whereas this is not that. But I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. Either way, I think the game looks really good. Probably not a day one purchase for me, mostly because of the fact that I realized, or not because I realized, but because of the fact that I still have the other Castlevania games that I own to get through. And so I'm not like chomping at the bit to play this. You know, I want to play through the play all the way through the DS collection, and then eventually, and then also play through the Lords of Shadow games. Because the only Lords of Shadow one I played was the 3DS one, the Mirror of Fate, on the 3DS, and I haven't played the remaster. But yeah, I mean, either way, I just think it's cool that they're doing a brand new Castlevania. I hadn't even thought about the fact that Igarashi wasn't involved. I mean, it's like I knew he wasn't, but I forgot. So either way, I still think it's pretty cool that it's coming, especially in time for the 40th anniversary. That's very cool.
Yeah. And one thing which I'm doubtful that this would happen, but I'm just hoping that this doesn't happen, is I'm hoping that there isn't any type of influence from the Netflix series that happens to bleed into this at all. Partly because I didn't like the way things were changing from the first season. Like, the first season I thought was pretty good. It was very short, but it did a good job with establishing things. But then, as like once you got into the second and third season, things changed, characters changed, and then like there were like more anti-Christianity jabs that were added into there, which I was like, okay, especially considering the fact that if you played back the original NES games, like the games had a lot of like Christian symbolism in them, and whatnot, and so like the Netflix series, you know, pretty much inverted all of that,
right?
More or less. So like I'm hoping that, while I think like it's unlikely, I'm hoping that that doesn't bleed into like the story aspects of this game.
Yeah. Well, either way, I mean, that's, you know, good to know. I hadn't even thought about that. I did remember hearing some bad stuff about the Netflix series. But yeah, I'll definitely keep my ears open from that standpoint as well. Because it's not like it's something where I have to play it, you know. Even if it was really good, it wouldn't necessarily matter if I ever played it. It wouldn't matter if this even existed, because I have, on top of additional Castlevania games, I also have a whole ton of Metroidvania games and Souls-Troidvania games to play. So yeah, no rush on that from that standpoint. But yeah. All right, that was everything I had. I mean, there was one other game that kind of stood out to me, which is also coming to PC, called Crimson Moon. It looked like it was kind of like a Gothic Souls kind of thing, but I think it also had some co-op, and I don't really know much of anything about it. I'm kind of keeping my eyes on it because it has the potential to be pretty cool, but it could also just be complete garbage. So I honestly have no idea one way or another. And I'll just quickly mention it, even though I'm not going to show the trailer and not really going to talk about it, but there was another game that it was like a stealth ninja game, and it was one where it kind of gave me vibes of it, where I looked at it and I saw it as this could either be amazing or it could basically be like what was the road to gosh, what's it called? The one that was the We Have Ghost of Tsushima at Home game.
Yeah. Oh man.
Gosh, what is the name of that game? I'll just bring up Steam real quick. But it's Road. No, it's not Road. It was gosh, what is it called? It's on the tip of my brain, and I can't think of what that game is called. Just remember, I didn't finish it because I didn't like it very much. Trek to Yomi, that was the name of it. Yeah, it was kind of giving me some Trek to Yomi vibes a little bit, and some of the animations were like really rough. At least for the cutscenes, like their arms were like, like it looked like PS1 level animation, if not worse. So, but anyway, yeah. Going back to Crimson Moon, I mean, it looks like it's a Souls-like. It's like colorful, but also gothic, and looks like it has the potential to be really cool, but also could be just complete garbage. And I'll just be curious to see what it actually ends up being like. And it is, of course, coming to PC as well, as are most of the games that were shown. All right. Anything else before we get into our next topic?
No, sir.
All right. You want to cover this story about Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3?
All right. So we have received some more news about Final Fantasy Part 3 in the trilogy, and it definitely says a whole lot here. So Naoki Hamaguchi, who is the director of the game, he was asked about, and this is coming from Video Games Chronicle, he was asked about about his opinion on players suggesting that he develop Part 3 with the Xbox Series S and Switch 2 in mind, rather than focusing on developing the game for the PS5 and PS5 Pro and optimizing them later on. However, he said that the third game, quote, will not in any way lower the quality of the third installment, as far as going multi-platform with that game. And he said that our development structure simply doesn't work that way to begin with. I suppose I'll just have to keep saying that. And he repeated himself, saying that there's no need for people to be concerned about it. And he said that as far as the development process goes, he's gone ahead to make sure that everything is optimized. He said that the Switch 2 version will be a key card, just because, he said that there was no need to shrink the data just to fit onto a slower cartridge. So it is going to be a key card, but I don't think anyone's too surprised there. And he said that the team's philosophy is that if a game runs at 30 FPS on Switch 2 or Xbox Series S, it should be able to hit 60 FPS on a higher end platform. He said, in other words, we don't design the game to fully saturate a high-end CPU at 30 FPS. Instead, on hardware that lends additional CPU headroom, we scale density elements like increasing the number of NPCs in towns. As a result, towns feel more alive on higher spec hardware, while lower spec systems may display fewer NPCs. So even when factoring in Nintendo Switch 2 or Xbox Series S support, CPU-related bottlenecks are unlikely. And then regarding this GPU, he said, as our fundamental principle, we do not design assets to meet the lowest baseline. Instead, we create them for high-end environments first. The team therefore develops with a high-spec PC as its lead platform and proceeds to scale the game down accordingly until it hits the lowest specifications. Compared to high-end PCs, and this is related to the PS5 and PS5 Pro, which he regarded as mid-range platforms, compared to high-end PCs, texture sizes may differ by roughly 1.5 to 2 times, mesh loading by 1.5 to 2 times, and polygon counts by more than 3 times. That's how big the difference can be. And then he said, conversely, among supported systems, the one adjusted toward lower specifications is the Steam Deck, since it operates at less than half the PS5's baseline. Therefore, I'd like to once again say that supporting multiple platforms does not impact overall quality. And then, he was just made one more comment talking about the game using Unreal Engine 4, but that is pretty much just reiterating what we've said before in the past in that aspect. So that is essentially it. What are your thoughts on this information here?
Well, first of all, the fact that he said, PS5 and PS5 Pro are the mid-range platforms, boom, roasted. That was just my reaction to that. I thought that was quite funny, especially after all the claims that, the PS5 Pro is a 4090, equal to a 4090, and, all this other nonsense. But no, I mean, in reality, there's a couple things that are significant about this. First of all, the fact that he's basically confirmed it's going to be multi-platform at launch. That's excellent. That's very, very good. From our previous discussions, we weren't entirely sure, but at the same time, just based on what Square Enix has been doing lately, it made the most sense. The fact that they're saying, okay, they're targeting 30 FPS on Switch 2 and the Series S makes perfect sense. That, other platforms should be doing 60, that they're targeting 60. And there are some things that I think I kind of wish they did a little bit differently as far as their focus goes. So on the one hand, I think it's great that they are at least focusing on, all the bells and whistles are on the highest tier. That, they're having all the excellent textures, the best things are going to be on the highest end PCs. But the one concern I have with that, if not for the fact that they've already done such a good job with the previous, with both Remake and especially with Rebirth as well, my one concern is that if they're targeting that, they're gonna have a harder time optimizing for lower stuff. That being said, they did say that they focus on optimizing properly for each platform. So it's kind of like a mixed bag from that standpoint. Personally, I think the ideal would be they make textures that can really shine on the high tier hardware, but then when it comes to actual optimization, they focus on optimizing for the low tier platforms, making it run well there, even if that's only 30 FPS for the Series S and Switch 2. And then from there, if they optimize it properly for the lower tier, then the higher tier platforms are automatically going to just run better, are going to be easier to optimize for to run that 60 FPS that they want to get or better. And then of course they can add on the better textures and everything the higher tier you get with PC and all of that. But yeah, it's just kind of an interesting way to look at things. I still think it's best for developers to optimize for the low tier, but because of the fact that they're basically taking what they've already done, they're not starting from scratch entirely, it also makes sense that they would have to work with what they already have. I just wish more developers would actually start with the low tier, make it as great as possible for that, and then but still have better textures that they make available for higher tier platforms. And then of course, when they have the additional CPU headroom, they can add more NPCs and all of that. So that's essentially my thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's incredible that the game hasn't even officially been revealed and they're already openly talking about multi-platform, which, just adds, it adds credibility to the game being multi-plat at launch, which would be great. I mean, of course, there could still be some sort of deal that Square has with Sony where they have to have the game be exclusive for at least this amount of time, but at the very least, the game is being worked upon already for every platform. So even if the games aren't ready to go multi-plat upon release date, by the time the deal ends, they'll be able to go right out the door. So like the day the deal ends, boom, automatically those games will be listed and ready to go. Like it'll be like shadow dropped as soon as the ink dries, essentially. So I think that's great. And like you said, it's definitely a bit of a mixed bag as far as the mentality to optimizing the games or how they're handling the games is working. Because it does sound like they want to optimize the games, at least from a CPU perspective, working on the weakest piece of hardware. But as far as the GPU goes, by trying to focus on the highest end possible first, that just makes it seem like, all right, you'll only be able to, like, it kind of feels like they're already maxing things out, rather than, trying to see how much they can add to the lower stuff and then just continue to build upon it for the higher stuff. Like, I feel like if, like you said, if they worked from the bottom up, that would allow people closer to the more budget-oriented GPUs, or, even, say, the Xbox Series S and the Switch 2, some of those graphics could be brought down, and then, as you work with higher hardware like a Series X, a PS5 Pro, and then 4090, 5090, 7900 XTX, then those pieces of hardware would be able to just scale up. So I mean, I like that they're scaling up with the CPU, but I just wish they also did that with the GPU as well. But maybe it'll be fine, but we'll definitely have to wait and see. One thing that I'm also interested in was the mention of the Steam Deck in particular. Talking about optimizing for that, and taking into consideration that Hamaguchi said that it is half the baseline of the PS5. So hopefully that means the game will be worked upon to be optimized. Now, granted, considering the fact that the team is targeting 30 FPS for the Switch 2 and the Series S, that would also mean that the game is also being targeted for 30 on the Steam Deck as well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which, just for me personally, is less than ideal.
Right.
But, if the game runs, then it runs. And I mean, I guess technically then, by the time a theoretical Steam Deck 2 comes out, then that would be running at 60, hopefully. But at least that's being considered right now. At least the original Steam Deck is being considered, for what it's worth. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think it's great news that they're being open about the game being multi-platform right now, when, like I said, it hasn't even been fully revealed. And it's great that there are steps being made to optimize the game. I just hope that enough optimization is going into there that it really makes it worthwhile, and that you can actually see and feel it compared with the first two games.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, as always. I'm not expecting it to run well on Steam Deck. I'm expecting that even if it gets that verified badge, that it's not going to be any better than Rebirth. I mean, I'm hoping that maybe, because of the fact that they're starting with the idea of it being multi-platform from the get-go, that it'll be better. But it's so hard to say, because the fact that it has the verified badge on Steam Deck and doesn't even really maintain 30 frames per second sometimes. I mean, it's possible that maybe it's because I haven't utilized all of the upscaling stuff and whatnot, but like it wasn't really playable enough on Steam Deck for me. Like, it worked to a degree for some aspects, but especially like you get past the prologue. The only time I really felt like it was okay was like when I was playing the card game. And it's like, I mean, I enjoy the card game. It's fun, but it's not something where I feel like this is worth... I don't want to spend my lunch break just playing Queen's Blood when I could be actually making progress in the game. At that point, I'd rather just play on my laptop. But, yeah. All right. Well, I don't have any more thoughts on that, so anything else from you before we close out for the night?
No, sir.
All right, well, let's get into our recommendations and dissuasions. Why don't you start us off?
All right, so a couple things for me. First one is going to be, if you are someone who enjoyed the classic Jurassic Park games on the Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo, stuff like that, or if you also were just interested in those games to begin with, buy those now, because they're being delisted on March 31st. So definitely go do that. And also, at least on Steam, and I think maybe the PlayStation 5 store as well. I think it's still full price on the Switch eShop, but at least on those the PlayStation Store and Steam, it is on sale right now for, I think, $7.50. So, definitely grab that. Now's definitely a good time to grab it. But yeah, definitely do that before March 31st, because those games will be delisted.
Are they on GOG?
Second, I don't know. That I don't know. I'd have to check and see.
All right, I'll look it up. Go ahead.
And then my second recommendation is a bit more general, but that is going to be, if you can, and especially if you can find a good deal, get an OLED monitor. It definitely is. It's definitely a great experience, and while I definitely noticed a difference when playing the Steam Deck OLED compared with the LCD model, you can definitely tell more of a difference when you're playing on a larger screen. So going from, one monitor that was LCD to a new monitor that's OLED is a huge difference. Also, it's just great. And then also some issues that I had with the VA panel that I had in my previous monitor were definitely gone with the OLED monitor as well. So overall, just a huge visual performance boost, and I just love it a whole lot. So definitely recommend getting one if you can find a good one on sale.
All right. Quickly, I forgot to ask you, what's the resolution of the new monitor?
1440p.
Nice. Very nice. All right. As far as my recommendations go, first of all, I'm going to recommend Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. I can actually recommend it now properly. You can easily... I think right now it's probably still on sale, but it goes on sale every so often anyway, and it's actually worth it now because of the fact that it has those updates to where the games all look and run a lot better than they did at launch. So now I can definitely recommend it, especially playing the original Metal Gear Solid. I mean, 2 and 3 were already great, and even with the problems that they had, they still ran pretty well, but now all of them are running great, as far as I know. I mean, 1 being the most standout of the 3. But yeah. My next recommendation is going to be that if you install a new graphics card, especially if you're switching from NVIDIA to AMD or vice versa, make sure you update your graphics drivers, because otherwise you might not get any VRAM that you can use, which would make it difficult, if not impossible, to play. Actually, I think it would make it impossible to play the games, unless you had your system set up to use integrated graphics as a backup, and even that is going to be really bad. Because, like, I know my integrated graphics is like 1 gigabyte, which is not going to work for the majority of games. Because that's what I had in my 2010 laptop. And if you remember the test I did for Arkham Knight, where it was running at like 20 frames per second average, or actually it was probably lower than that, and that was at the lowest of low settings at 640 by 480, and had stutters and freezes, and it was awful. So, yeah. But I think that's it. I feel like there was something else that I just forgot to write down, but that's good enough. All right, dissuasions.
All right, so 2 things from me here as well. The first one is going to be, do not buy Dino Crisis 1 and 2 on Steam. Recently, it was shadow dropped on Steam, and it was originally released on GOG, and some people wanted the Steam version, and so we got one. Unfortunately, Capcom is being Capcom once again, and they released the Steam version with DRM, but not only just DRM, Enigma DRM, which recently was shown to, when they added it to Resident Evil 4 Remake, it dramatically reduced the frame rate. And this is a game that had de novo at launch, and it did not reduce the frame rate as much as this one. And this is also the same Enigma DRM that caused a lot of games supposedly to stop working on the Steam Deck. It also broke a lot of mods for games as well. So they decided to slap this DRM on Dino Crisis, even though the game is DRM free completely on GOG. Which also, GOG also happened to help with this port. It's the same version that's released on GOG, so just get the game on GOG instead. Don't buy the Steam version, because it's just filled with garbage in that aspect. So don't buy it there. Next dissuasion is going to be, do not buy a Steam Deck at scalper prices. Currently, the Steam Deck is sold out completely on the Steam store, and Valve, as of I think yesterday, or maybe it was today, put out a full note on the page saying that due to RAM shortages and memory shortages and stuff like that, the Steam Deck is going to be unavailable for the foreseeable future. So, and also it's in multiple areas in the world. So, if you are trying to buy one, try to buy one that's at least reasonably priced. I know people are going to be starting to raise the prices on the third-party markets, but don't pay for one that is extremely ridiculously priced, because they're not worth that. No. So that's my dissuasion there as well.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, I had heard that they were out of stock. I didn't hear that they were going to be out of stock for a while. Oh, that's a bummer. But I would say at that point, you might as well just get if you want a handheld PC, you just get a different one. Get one of the other ones that's more reasonably priced, because, like, even though the Steam Deck is a great device, there's other ones that you can get for better prices at this point, and you might as well just go for one of those. Like, if you want the if you still want to have Steam OS and don't want to go through the trouble of getting it installed yourself, you could just get a Lenovo Legion Go S, and that one has Steam OS installed. So good to know. All right, well, my dissuasion has to do with Metal Gear Solid. So there is a section right near the end of the game where you have to take a key card to 3 different locations, or, well, it's really just 2 different locations. Because you start off, you have it the way it is by default, you use it for one computer, and then you have to take it to a cold area and a hot area in order to change the key cards that you can use it on the other 2 computers. don't make the mistake that I did, thinking that, oh, well, I'll go to the hot area first because it's further away, so get that over with, and then I come back and then do the cold area. If you try to do it out of order, it will not maintain the shape that it gets from going to the hot area. So just do it in the order that the game tells you to do it, and then you won't have any problems. But if you try to do it otherwise, you are going to have problems. It's going to change back before you get all the way there. So don't waste time like I did. Just do it in the order the game tells you, and then you won't have any problems. Yeah, I know that I had like various other recommendations and dissuasions related to Metal Gear Solid, but honestly I don't remember what they are because I didn't write any of them down. It was just stuff that I thought of as I was playing, and yeah. Yeah, I think that's everything I got. Alright, where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. While I didn't get the video out I mentioned before, the good news is that it should be coming out tomorrow morning. It should be, unless something happens with the scheduling, it should be primed and ready to go. I think I have it scheduled for noon Eastern time. We'll definitely have to see. But yeah, it will be a video on me seeing if I can essentially build my first gaming laptop in the desktop equivalent, and then, you know, trying to see how that goes. So definitely check that out tomorrow. And yeah, so that's what I have for that. And I might have one video coming later on, but after trying to go through some of the editing I had to do for this, I might take a little break for my mind. And yeah. But then I have my other channel, Justin's Bible Blog. That's at Justin's Bible Blog. Just because I was so focused with this current video, I did not have any. I didn't have time to work on anything for that channel, but I will try to have something out soon. I do have, again, several things that I have planned, but it's just a matter of getting around to making those videos there as well. But that is everything.
Nice. So to clarify, that build that you're talking about, is it that it was the specs of your laptop in desktop form?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good. I'll definitely have to check that out. That should be interesting. I think it would be really hard to do with, like, taking my old laptop and building that as a desktop. I mean, I suppose I could potentially get, like, some parts that would make it equal to that, but man, that would be tough, because I think that thing has, like, maybe 6 gigs of RAM, if that.
System RAM? Oh, wow.
Something like that. I can't remember. It's been a little while since I looked at it, but it was low. Very low. It might have been as much as 8 gigs, but I don't think it was. I think it was pretty. I mean, considering the fact that I only had 1 gig of VRAM, I know that the actual RAM was low. It was fine for the time, but now it's just no, it doesn't work. Yeah. All right, good stuff. You can find me on my YouTube gaming channel at the Frozen Gamer 87. Nothing new yet, and I don't know when I'm going to have something new up. It's basically just stuff in my head, and it's a matter of sitting down and recording. That's really the number one thing. That's all I have to do in order to start getting stuff up, but we'll see. I'm not promising anything one way or the other. We'll see if I get to it anytime soon. But there's that. There's the YouTube and Rumble channels for the podcast. For the video version of the podcast. On YouTube, that's at the Orange Box Podcast. On Rumble, it's not a custom URL, but you can still find us there. And that the video version goes live every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. The audio-only version goes live on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music, among others. And that goes live at 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday, once again, barring technical issues. And then there's, if you want to contact us, you can send us an email to the orangeboxpodcast@gmail.com, or you can comment on our the video version of the podcast. We actually did get a comment. Let me read that real quick. It was nothing major. Okay, so the comment was, it just said, "I like this upload, nice work. I make gaming vids as well," from Knock18. And if you actually listened, thank you for the comment. And if you were just trying to sell us something, then bye. But anyway, yeah, so that should be everything as far as I can tell. Yeah. All right. Last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast, and it's hell next time. Well, I say, go and slash up those monsters. Orange Box Podcast, out.